Good evening. Today we are going back down under to do a LUUDE 2.0. This time is tuned Fun in the Sun with Harry Bee. Let's get into it. Lovely. Let's have a listen from the beginning.
Always lie, 'cause red lips have a filthy price. That's a murder in her paradise. Red lips have a filthy price. That's a murder in her paradise. Oh.
Heck yes, let's get into it. So we are in the key of G sharp minor, and this is the note that we're playing first in our bass. Super simple bass, just two saw waves. The LFO is affecting the cutoff. We're on trigger, we're on eighths, and we're just holding that note. We've got some of the lute influences, some of the flutes going on. Just a sample that I found and cut up. Added a little bit of reverb to make it that bit more atmospheric. We've got a vocal effect shot thing that's going on as well. With an echo with a lot of feedback on there, just to maintain that ambience. And then going into the next section, we've just got a simple break, and I've just cut it up a little bit just to make that rhythm gallop into the next section a little bit more. And then we are introduced to our first chord progression, starting on the G sharp, which is the 1, F sharp, which is the 7, E, which is the 6th, and D sharp, which is the 5th, and then we have this little bridge note in here. And we've not repeated those same notes twice round, so we're slightly changing the chord progression, gone from the E to the D sharp to the E to the F sharp, with a few little bridge notes in there as well.
Don't let her smile fool, don't let her eyes confuse. Red lips always lie, 'cause red lips have a filthy price. That's a murder in her paradise.
And that reese is just the trap reese that I found. Super simple, just effectively a couple of saw waves with a filter on it, a noise, and a little bit of processing. And at the same time, we're introducing this brassy string sounding synth. Playing the exact same notes as the reese, and this is just a patch that I found. It sounds amazing. And then to get us into that section, we've got this little whum going on. Pretty simple, saw wave and a square wave, FM from B, and then this LFO is doing all the work. That's affecting the cutoff, bend, the level, FM, and we've got some distortion on there as well, which is doing a lot of that drive, but the FM is where it gives it that real industrial sound. So those two independently are pretty basic sounding waves. But when you have this FM from B, makes it that little bit more interesting. And to add something interesting to the sort of melodic structure of this song, I've introduced this build synth, which is playing on top of the Reese's. So the Reese's are playing G sharp, and this higher synth is starting on the D sharp. So we're playing the fifth, and then we're slowly increasing the melody step by step, just to add a little bit of tension. And so we melodically are slowly building to that drop. And then these two synths under here are just sustaining one note and carrying on that build in the melody. And this note is holding the G sharp. And to carry on the stepping up of that melody, these trumpets, we're starting on the G and then doing the same thing. We're just ascending. So from bar 9 here all the way to bar 41, there's something melodically that is gradually building and building and building until we hit the drop where we return back to the G sharp. And as we've got the word murder in the lyrics, I thought we should sonically represent the concepts of the lyrics with the track. So we have this sort of horror sustain strings that I'm using, and to make it even more terrifying, I've got a pitch bend on there. So we've got +1 and -1, and then we are just automating the pitch bend as this goes on. So it gives it that really creepy. So hopefully that sonically reflects the lyrics. And we've done a similar thing. We found a horror ambience loop. So that's another thing that we've added just to add to the uneasiness of this build. And then along the way, I've added a few more effects, sort of peppered in, just to add to that same uneasiness. So hopefully there we're creating a bit of a soundscape where the lyrics and the back end all have a bit of synergy. And in that build, we have got a kick doing 16ths. And we have these little bits of build as well. And again, I've slightly cut up this break just to make it a little bit more interesting. We've got a little gallop where I've just duplicated one little bit here. Gives it that stutter effect. So in the drop, we've not got so many kicks. It's quite minimal in this kind of tune. So it's not a get. The kicks are much more fleeting. So we've just got this low thumper and then one on top that's a little bit more trashy, just for that top end. And then with the tops, effectively all the hats are doing a pretty similar rhythm. Then we've got a ride on there on the left. And then I've got a reverse hi-hat and a reverse noise as well that's sweeping into the snares. And then we've got a snare. It's quite a tonal snare, like you can see here where I've notched it up. It's almost hitting a note, so you can really hear the tone of that snare. And then every 4 bars we've got this little hit as well. Just helps emphasize those downbeats. And then in the second half, we just emphasize it with a shaker. And then we've just added this little skippy snare. Just to add something different to that rhythm second time around. And then in between, we've got these little bits of the break that I've just cut up. And we're just using these to keep up the rhythm and ease ourselves into the next section. And so with the bass, I've got 2 layers going on. One is just a sub, which is literally just a sine wave, no effects on it. We are pitch bending into that first note and up to that first note in the second half. And we're using +6 and -2. And then the main bass is just a saw wave. So the main things that are doing the work here are the distortion and the noise. So I've just got a saw doing the same thing, are pitch bend, same again, 6 and 2. And the noise and a distortion on sine shaper. So it gives it that real crunch. And then we've got an erosion on there as well, just to crunch it up a little bit more. And they are just playing a G sharp down to the F sharp, and then C sharp, B and A. And then the same thing again, second time round. And then we've got a few little sort of fill basses going on as well. I've got this 808 that I just found, and we're doing that at the same rhythm as these kicks up here, just as a little fill. So as these drop out, we have a little gap here where we can fill with another bass. And we've done a similar thing second time round, but this time we've switched up a little bit and done this sort of sub wobble. And that's 2 analog dB sines. One, a semitone up, which creates the sound of that wobble. So if we're at 0 semitones, you don't get that wobble. With 1, we do. And we're doing the same thing. We're just pitch bending that down a little bit. This time I've used LFO1 on the master tune. So we're just slightly pitch bending down as that note goes on. And same again, we've got a little bit of processing. The thing that's doing most of the work is this distortion. Makes a hell of a lot of difference. And these effects are doing quite a lot of work as well, because we've got these little stops at the start and halfway through the drop. So the way that I've used these effects just help to accent those little stops and help transition in and out of them. So without those effects, just doesn't have that same impact. It doesn't kick the energy along as well. So just these little flicks here and there are doing a lot of work just to maintain that ear candy and help the listener remain engaged. So in terms of these vocals in the drop, I started off by using a little bit from the acapella. And I'm using Serum Effects, put the noise on, audio in, and put note latch. Then the sound will come through Serum Effects. And then I'm just using this LFO on the level. So this is the shape of the stutter. And I've copied and pasted that on 3 of these channels. So this is the first one that I used. It didn't have much of a note, but it helped maintain the continuity of the sound, because I ended up using this chop that was not from the original a cappella. And you could hear that it wasn't from the a cappella from before. It was a little bit of a weird transition from this Red Lips a cappella into this totally different vocal loop. So I kept this little bit in so we maintain some of the vibe of the a cappella from before. And then this chop is just a chop that I found that I've stretched out and kept it at one note. So without that Serum Effects. And then we've just got a little bit of pitch bend going on as well. Rather than it being a static change like that, we're just gliding into the note to make it a little bit more interesting. And then we've got this weird patch that I found. It's a lead, and we're just playing the same rhythm as the vocal chop. So all those 3 together. Helps create a little bit of a wall of sound. And then just before this first chop comes in, I've taken off the serum stutter, and then we're just gliding into that note with clip transposition. And that just helps the transition from this first a cappella into this second one.
Always lie.
And I've just cut off these chops right at the end because there's a reverb on this main chop. And as it stops playing, the reverb tail continues, but this LFO on Serum is still acting on that reverb, so it just sounds like a little delay throw. So rather than having this the whole way through and it sounding a little bit static, you can sort of hear the tail at the end of this, and it just helps for the sound to move a little bit and die off before this second half of the drop. And then right at the end, just to add a little bit of melodic sort of progression, just add in these saw waves in. This is a patch from the stock Serum presets, Hypersaw Basic. So as the bass is playing C sharp, B, A sharp, we've got a synth just on top of that that's playing a G sharp, a D sharp, and a D. And there we have it, LUUDE. I was always going to do 2 videos of LUUDE because he's got his distinct sound, and then this tune that we're basing this off is just so good, so I had to do a version of it. I know some people use Windows, so I will put the Serum presets in the project file so you can download those as well. Love to your mothers. Thank you.